Okay. Well, you know, most people would think they were insane if they saw something like that. But luckily, I have an open mind about this sort of thing, and I'm not...
Now, I know what you're thinking. What could be stranger than a big, fat-ass floating cupcake? Hey, how about one that spits tobacco? See you around, buddy. That's a cute kid.
Cabin Boy is a 1994 American fantasy comedy film directed by Adam Resnick, starring Chris Elliott, Rich Brinkley, Brian Doyle Murray, Andy Richter, James Gammon, Brian James, Melora Walters, and Russ Tamblyn. Let's take a quick look.
Touchstone Pictures presents...
Here's how a harem girl dances. Okay, well, thank you for that, whatever that was.
the motion picture that's so big,
Say what?
so charming,
I'm at my wit's end. I can't take it.
so manly. It's sure to be a classic for all generations.
Perhaps. You've been like the drunken, abusive grandfather I never had.
Cabin Boy.
Willkommen.
It's the story of a boy and his love affair with the sea.
This moron got on the wrong boat.
Now he's getting a taste of the sailor's life.
Is it true it's unsafe to drink seawater?
That's a new one to me.
It's the most amazing journey ever.
Okay, moron, you go stand in the bow and let us know when we're coming close to ice.
Okay, you hit one.
He never dreamed where the winds of fortune would blow him. Where the spirit of adventure would hurl him. Or where the hands of fate
Come on over here, honey.
would grab him.
These pipes are clean.
Touchstone Pictures presents
What happened to you?
Well, let's just say I've finally shed my feminine side.
Chris Elliott,
So this is what you guys do for fun? Humiliate an imbecile?
Cabin Boy,
You couldn't be cuter. Hey, would you like to buy a monkey?
Welcome back to the Cult of Films. I'm your host, John, joined once again by the internet's favorite cabin boy, Mr. Fancy Lad himself, Johnny Mulligans. Welcome to the show, sir.
Swear to God.
We are talking about one of my favorite comedies of all time. So you're going to hear me gush about Cabin Boy for the next, 30 to 60 minutes. Because I love this movie. A lot of people did, but more people didn't. I made this guy watch it for the very first time. How did you go your entire life without knowing about how to become a fancy lad?
I don't know. I guess I just got lucky.
Did you not know that this film even existed?
No, I don't know. I might have seen a poster when I was a teenager, and when I was a teenager, this might have got me a bit more, but I've become a bit of a Netflix snob, so it damaged me a little bit to go into this 25, 26 years after the fact and go in like, oh, it's comedy, Chris Elliott. I know that guy. I've seen him in some things. What the hell is going on here? And at one point I'm watching, I'm looking around the room wondering if Tom Servo and Crow are going to pop up. It's like, is this MST3K? What's going on?
That's right. It's the reboot, baby. And to help me through this, I am drinking a Contact Haze. You might need a Contact Haze to enjoy Cabin Boy. I don't know. More on that later. It's a hazy icy. No, it's a hazy IPA from Elysian up here in Washington. So, L'chaim, sir. What did you pull from the starboard bow?
Stay on the brand with this particular film. I found an open bottle of Bacardi Gold. I don't know when I bought this, God. And I'm drinking it with store brand orange soda.
Oh boy!
just a little broth, chummy broth.
You couldn't be sweeter, as David Letterman states.
Oh God!
Oh, the best cameo. Well, second best cameo of all time. I have to still give Bill Murray in Zombieland the best cameo of all time. But we do. I mean, this film has everything. It even has a Murray.
It has a Murray. I was happy to see that the Brian Doyle Murray, Bill Murray's father. It's fun to he's been in lots of brother. I thought it was his father.
Oh no.
No, that's his brother.
His younger brother.
It's his younger brother. Sorry, Bill. Sorry, Brian. Not that you're ever going to see this.
No, he's older. He's older.
You know, Brian's been in tons of flicks through the 80s and 90s, and you remember him from Christmas Vacation. He was doing stuff in Ghostbusters. He was all over the place doing minor roles. What I did enjoy about this movie was seeing the actors that I saw. Yes. Even though they had been more kind of, they always seemed like, you know, Brian, who is it? Brian James here, like, always felt like he always had a solid place as hired goon number 2.
Right.
And it was cool to see him here. You know, we saw him in Fifth Element. That's the only other one I really can remember, you know, place him. Like, I know him specifically as like the Colonel in that movie. So it was neat to see some of them. And it's funny, like James Gammon, that guy, I don't think he needed to like change anything to play the role he played, because I think about the other place I saw him was the Nash Bridges series. It was a late 90s like detective flick, and he played the father to the Nash Bridges character. Yeah. And it's the same person. Like he was a pirate then, he was a pirate in the series, so it didn't matter. He's always got this gruff kind of sound to him. Yeah. So it was cool to see these see a lot of these actors in there doing what they were doing. So it was fun to see faces that I knew. The movie was losing me, man.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. But first, what is in your, we're all gentlemen here. We're all fancy lads. So what is Cabin Boy about, Johnny?
A privileged silver spoon little fancy lad who is arrogant and full of himself and completely incompetent and does not get it and stumbles into a fishing trawler of drunken sailors and weird special animatronic claymation things.
It has it all.
It has so much cheese. I was watching this, and this is before I had, we had discussed this pre-show, like before I had realized that Tim Burton had any of his hands on this at all. And just like I felt like there was a touch of a Beetlejuice vibe, and he had left the project, but they had kind of kept some of those pieces. There were chuckles. I enjoyed the Letterman cameo. That was fun. There were some funny moments in there. You get some laughs, and more like laughs at this is a ridiculous, absurd kind of scenario happening in this movie, or the storm is these two people in face makeup to look like clouds blowing. It's just like the special effects were so cheesy. There was like they piled on cheese for the sake of the cheese. It was like adorable in that sense, but at the same time I'm just like and as I'm watching this, my wife's sitting next to me and she's off doing her other things, like, you're really watching this? I'm like, yes, I'm watching this. I'm paying attention.
Don't forget about the floating cupcake that spits tobacco. Voiced by Jim.
That was disgusting.
Voiced by Jim Cummings. I mean, that's Optimus Prime spitting tobacco in Nathaniel's face.
Oh my God, is that the voice actor?
Yeah, absolutely. This had the best people working on it. Like, that's what I'm saying. Famously, Tim Burton pulled out of this production pretty early to go direct Ed Wood. He had the opportunity to go do Ed Wood. I think everyone won, because I think Adam Resnick, even though that this was an absolute career killer for Adam Resnick and Chris Elliott going forward. Chris Elliott, you're just like, oh, well, he did okay, but I think this is around the time where he still, had leading man kind of potential in the right role, right? But this completely ended that.
Yeah, and it was funny. Like I went and looked at his IMDb profile and checked, what kind of work he did. He's done tons of work, but yeah, I think Cabin Boy sank that leading role kind of ship until even till today. But I think the funny thing is that the comedy that he was bringing, this like awkward almost like self-absorbed character trait, like socialite but oblivious character trait. That kind of comedy, that was something we would also find in movies like the American Pie series with Eugene Levy, and just sort of like there's a genre there. I think Chris Elliott got a little shafted with the way this movie got so handily bashed by the pre-internet days, like movie reviewers and just the general public. Never mind the fact that on the East Coast, it turns out that the release date for this particular movie happened during one of the major ice storms in the Northeast. So theaters were empty at that point. And then it was, they had to contend with other major flicks from that year. So there was a lot of stuff. This is one of those things. It's one of those movies, again, fell through the cracks, partially because it wasn't that great. And partially because they had to put together, had to go up against these other bigger movies.
You said it fell through the cracks because other stuff that year, 1994, sure, all that. But I think that made for $10 million, which is a little surprising because, even back in 1994, and it only made $3.7 million because people, like you said, didn't or couldn't show up. It was the hell's bucket of, what happened that year. Because he and Adam Resnick, not only, it was their story. So he wrote the jokes. The fact that it didn't do as well as it did, he had to shoulder the blame for
it. Well, my career came to a screeching halt after
Really?
Cabin Boy. Yeah, I mean, it was, Adam Resnick who wrote it and directed it. Is my good friend, and we've worked together since Letterman. For both of us, it was like a traumatic experience. And I think we were really naive. I don't think we understood that, okay, this movie didn't hit it out of the ballpark, but we'll do another movie, and that'll be better. That's the way I thought. I had no idea that, if your first movie doesn't work, they don't give you a second chance to do it. So, I was kind of shocked that, well, you're kidding me, just because of that?
Over time, this is, in my opinion, the definition of a cult film, because if people didn't get it then, I think people have really started to get it now. And yourself notwithstanding, it's still not for everybody. But I think just performance-wise and just joke-wise, he wrote this character who already looks like he's supposed to be graduating from finishing school from this, from this very silver spoon, type of life, where even he's so much of an asshole that the other fancy lads hate him too. Like, he is just the least self-aware, politically incorrect person on the face of the planet, where he is just so blunt. He doesn't even make it like the limo ride to the town that's like right next door, because the limo, he's so insufferable that he gets kicked out of the limo driver.
What was his line?
Completely incompetent. Yeah, speed up, you imbecile. Slow down. And he's it's just so fun. And then he happens on the wrong ship in the wrong town because, again, just no self-awareness. He can't even read a sign right. He has no human skills whatsoever. Where he gets on like this broken down rig, just wandered on to a dinner theater,
It's a theme cruise.
Yeah. And we get Andy Richter, who just is so funny in this movie. Get me some bouillon. He's like, bouillon sounds like a fancy word for chum. And then he's like, you want to see what a harlot dance is like? And the weird timing of this film, and the boat's called the Filthy Whore, which is just, actually, and Ricky Lake plays the mask, who has 0 lines in the film.
No, none. She's so. I think we see her face 4 times.
Yep.
Total, and each time it's something different. One time with a beard. I forget what that was about.
It's just why not? Because this movie has everything. Like, the production is so sweet. Like, they had to have this small little water tank that they shot all the ship scenes in, and when he's on the raft, and then the matte paintings are just gorgeous in the background that have, it shows the skyline and stuff. And then you have the sets are incredible. The costumes are so on point. Like, there was a lot of love and attention given to this film. Like, it feels so tactile.
I don't know, because that's the thing. I watched this one of the little, the 25-year anniversary where Chris Elliott and Adam Resnick show up to this theater and talk to a bunch of these cult fans. And they're like, yeah, this wasn't our passion project. we were just going through the motions. They really, it was very self-deprecating.
They
As
probably
far as-
had to sign something where they're like, we have to disavow, our feelings, our real feelings for this movie because of how bad it just ruined their lives.
It's what was it? Resnick in that interview, he was talking about how he went to his former manager after the fact, or he went to his manager at the time, and he's like, "You think that they were at the first screening?" And the screening, that's the thing. This film had over 150 some odd pages of script for the 80 minutes that it was. So there was a lot of this that was cut out at the end, and the original showing of it, like apparently people were just getting up and walking out. Resnick is just like imploding in on himself, and afterwards he goes to his manager's like, "You think this is gonna get around?" He's like, "It's gonna get around."
It must have been the person that was in charge of rating this film too. How this got a PG rating is beyond me. Like, it is the filthiest. Everything's about sex and just profanity. Everything is nasty and dirty in this film. Like, this, how it got away with a PG rating is bring your kids, come see Cabin Boy.
Bring your toddlers, it's fine. No. What's chum?
Go watch his pipes get cleaned by a six-armed whore. It's just, it has everything. It has Chalky, played by Russ Tamblyn, who Russ Tamblyn is one of the Twin Peaks alum. I love him in Twin Peaks. And then I forgot, because I watched Twin Peaks kind of recently, and then I was like watching this again in prep for this. I'm like, oh my god, Dr. Jacoby from Twin Peaks, and I'm like, oh, it's Chalky, and it just made me love both things even more. Like you said, Brian Doyle Murray has pigeonholed himself into these these pirate roles. Like, he's the voice of Davy Jones and like SpongeBob. Like, he just has like this perfect pirate voice.
That's amazing.
Oh, it's so good. And then James Gammon was literally my father. I could put up an image of my father like right next to it after my dad drank like half a bottle of Crown. He was basically James Gammon. It was just so good. Like, perfectly cast for these like scallywag, fisherman pirate type.
They didn't have to work too hard at the acting part.
Right.
Rich Brinkley, he doesn't seem to have had a lot of movie stuff going on. It seemed like he'd get on a gig every 5 or 6 years, it seemed, but he wasn't. I don't know. Was he? Where else was he from?
He did more of these types of roles. Either him and like James Gammon, they would do these like kind of good old boy roles where either they're backwater folk or like pirate and seaman, or like fishermen, and it worked out perfectly. Like, yeah, you're right, he didn't have too many roles, but I think he did really good in this. And like you said, Brian James too, 100% effort. Like, maybe Chris Elliott wasn't, but I kind of feel like he was. Someone that didn't do like a great performance, but maybe she kind of did ironically, was Melora Walters as Trina. Her lines are just so bad that you could tell she's so annoyed by having to say them.
She was. This whole storyline behind that character was just like, what's this? What are we throwing on the dartboard today? What
it's so
possibly?
good. Yeah.
She works in the steel world making girders, and then she's a distance, record world swimmer person.
Yeah, you can tell like when he's like poking her and stuff, she's trying so hard not to laugh and smile, like, and they just left it in, like they didn't even care.
Ship it. Just ship it.
It's a good take. And
it's
she
fine.
she blew up after this. She survived the curse of Cabin Boy, because right after that she was in Ed Wood for a smaller role, but she was also in like a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson films. She had a big spot in Hard 8 and Boogie Nights and Magnolia. So like, she actually did some good work. She was, I mean, she's been working since then, but there was the 90s were really good for her, especially after this. Like, it was kind of a, like you said off air, this was kind of a snake bitten film where a lot of these actors, like half of the cast is dead at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah. I was noticing that there was Gammon and James are gone at this point.
Brinkley also, yeah.
Yeah, and Rich Brinkley. That's like three of the primary actors in this. That was, I go through these old movies from the '90s and like check the IMDb stats and find out like, oh my God, half the cast is dead.
Yeah, James Gammon was supposed to be like the grandfather of the crew, and he was the youngest one. He was only like 50 years old.
Oh
when
jeez,
they made this, and he looks like he's 80. Like,
you grow that beard out and bleach it up a bit.
how about a nice cup of Joe?
Oh my God, that coffee stayed hot. That coffee pot was amazing because that stayed hot for months. It stayed hot enough to melt down a giant claymation ice monster thing that at its best could just poke Brian James.
Right. Well, Brian James.
That
is a
was
hard
it.
ass.
He poked him. Yeah. Just little pokey. I'm like, how did it not sink the ship? What's happening?
It's fine. No, it's fine. It's totally fine. Everything's good.
Does Elliot's character, does he pick up some ice for a nice cappuccino? Did that happen?
Oh yeah. Well, after he's tried to kill the monster by stepping on his foot. I'm trying to cause it foot pain, you idiot. Yeah.
Oh Jesus!
Constantly berating everyone all the time. She's just like, oh well, yeah, I'm gonna go turn in, Trina. She's like, oh good, I thought you were human for a second. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening because you're constantly blabbing blah blah blah. Just the absolute best lines in this. Like, this is one of the most quotable movies ever. Like when after he becomes a cabin man, her switch, her change is so fast, and she just
There's
falls
something
in love with
about
him.
you.
Yeah, and he's just like, I'm like a snake that shed its fur. It's just it's the best.
And to Elliot's credit, what he did in this movie, even though it all bombed and it took 25 years for a cult following to like make the money back in DVD sales and rentals and all that good stuff, this character, there's a lot of what I see in his character in Cabin Boy. You can go over to Schitt's Creek and you can see it in his role as Roland Schitt.
Yeah,
like that's the other thing. Like there's this genre of comedy where I would say I would default to like Eugene Levy and the mockumentaries that we saw coming up through the 2000s.
Sure.
There was one about dog shows. There was one about folk music.
Yeah, Best in Show, and yeah.
I'm pretty sure Eugene Levy had his hands on both of those. And like there was a line for him to go into. Like he could go into that line of work and take that same character he did in Cabin Boy and use it for something else, and he does that in Schitt's Creek, and that's what I liked seeing. Like, even though they suffered so much on the reviews with this movie, at the end of the day, Elliot still found work. Yeah, there's a lot of minor roles in between, but he finally got to this Netflix series that he's got a solid supporting role. He's not the main characters in there, but he's present. He's in their face. He's a constant nuisance. It's like the fancy boy finally landed and found his little hole.
He had that type throughout, but at least his roles were memorable. Like, everyone remembers Oogie from Something About Mary. Everyone remembers the creepy butler with the strong hand in Scary Movie 2. Like, his roles resonate. His career probably didn't go as he wanted it to, but they were memorable. And same thing with Adam Resnick. Resnick would go on to do a couple like Larry Sanders shows, wrote Death to Smoochie, which it's that type, that kind of humor. Like, that kind of humor is just kills it for me. Where you could almost say like Robin Williams' character as Rainbow Randolph in Death to Smoochie is very similar to Nathaniel Mayweather in Cabin Boy. He just writes these like again unself-aware, just unabashed, just assholes in your face constantly, and he just has this like, but he writes it in this like endearing, nice-spirited way where you're not just like, it doesn't make you want to turn the movie off right away because you're just like, oh god, this guy is such a douche, but I just can't stop laughing at him.
What an asshole. At least he's just an idiot. He doesn't mean it.
Right. Very underrated film, and it's interesting, and I like I like when you're on this show because it's like I'm making you watch these movies to almost like fact check myself from back in the day and be like, was this good? Like, was it funny?
Why was I laughing at this? This was hilarious. I'm like, what are you fucking doing to me? Are you angry with me?
Oh, no way. This one's so off the wall, so batshit nuts. Constantly, and it's so fast. It's like if you don't. The good news is if you don't like this movie, it's over in 80 minutes. It's not even a 90-minute like feature length runtime. It
felt
quick.
Longer.
He literally like graduates, gets in a limo, gets kicked out, gets on a boat, shit ensues, goes on an island, goes to Hawaii, and it's over. Like that's the whole movie.
It's just so. I wouldn't rent it again, but I'd watch it one more time for research purposes.
There you go.
If I had to.
So you think the story around it's more entertaining than the actual film itself?
I think the absurdity of the scenes and some of the events that they find themselves in. That was amusing. Something like Andy Richter, as he's about to drown, reminding him to tell the captain, "Oh, don't forget to tell the captain we're almost out of margarine." Okay.
See?
All right.
It's great. You don't know what you're talking about. It's
Where's
the best
Hawaii?
movie ever.
50 million degrees that way.
Yeah. But I wouldn't care for some lotion. Oh, I got this cooking oil.
Cooking oil. Fun fact: that water he drank, the seawater,
right?
That was the tank water.
Oh God!
Production never figured out how to get him proper fresh water heat, and like the boom, the camera crew and all the people, they've been standing in the wetsuits for 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Pretty confident there was urine in that.
Yeah.
But he's talking about you could see the bubble gum in the bottom. It's like, yeah, he drank that. Elliot drank that. That happened. That's his life.
See, he really went for it.
Yeah. That's commitment. If nothing else, that's a committed actor. He's like, we need the scene. Fuck it, we'll just do it.
What do you want? We gave you a thing of chocolate milk.
Oh, God.
It's
At
just
the end,
powder.
This is dripping out like this goo. It was meant to be like gross teenage fart humor. That's what half of this movie was.
Our Mike Star, Mulligan the Giant.
Oh my God, that was hilarious. That's my sister's bag. No, it's not. Your sister hasn't visited in months.
Oh, and he just falls over. It's the most unclimactic death I've ever seen. Because he's literally just a guy in a suit, like standing in like waist-high water, like you said, and he just.
Elliot's character unbuckles his belt, climbs up his back, and chokes him with his own belt.
But that's what I'm saying. How great, like, because if you look at it, like, while he's really climbing, they had to build a model of that wasn't CG, that wasn't any of that. That was a real, like, they had to build a giant businessman for him to crawl up. They had to like make a giant pen for them to stab and a big belt, and it all looked real.
And then
it was amazing.
And the pen stabbing, all it did was put ink on his shirt. Had no effect.
No.
It's like, oh, what are you doing?
Yeah. And then just very slowly chokes him to death. This little tiny man.
Thanks, Chucky. Oh God. Before I like, I don't want to just completely dump on the movie. Yeah, it was kind of surfacey for me, but there were funny moments, and yes, I did get some chuckles out of it. But there were a lot of those chuckles were like, why is he riding on her back again? Seriously. Get a boat.
It's the best thing ever. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, it left a legacy, like a Static Lullaby, a post-hardcore band. They had like songs called a song called Half Man, Half Shark equals One Complete Gentleman, because that's what Shockey is.
Wow.
It resonated with some people.
It apparently I did this one. I missed this one.
I would join the crew of the Filthy Whore any day.
So
you can't even talk about it without laughing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
this
you
movie's
can't.
Perfect.
And they're just What is it? What he did? He fall off the mast and land on the poker table, and they just keep playing
That's
cards on
right.
top of him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there were funny moments. I just
The deepest sigh. Can I just say that Anne Magnuson, who plays Callie, the Shiva lady that helps cabin boys with their special problems, she's in the new Star Trek Picard series, and she still looks great. Like, that woman just does not age. She's like a silver-haired queen now, but I mean, she's just like. I'd be lucky if I got shipwrecked on her island. Even today, one of the ones that did not get the cabin boy curse. But yeah, got the whole. It just literally the whole crew besides the Murray brother is pushing up daisies. So that's tragic. We're never gonna get Cabin Boy 2.
Yeah, it's a shame. Really, excuse me.
It causes indigestion.
You know what their plan for a sequel was a movie about a balloon ride. That's what they were talking about in that special.
Oh,
they were gonna do the Cabin Boy 2, the balloon ride race around the world.
Oh, so good, so good. Oh. So Mulligans, would you recommend Cabin Boy, and who would you recommend it for?
Recommend this to. You gotta prime people or give them a big bag of weed. Don't watch this movie sober.
This movie feels like a mushroom trip for sure. It feels like a feverish dream, mushroom trip, psychedelic.
I wonder if like the timing of the special effects would like coincide with what you'd expect for typical hallucinations on a psychotropic.
You don't have to wonder. I could tell you. They nailed it.
Okay.
I would recommend this to. It's hard because like I love it so much. So, I don't get when people don't get it because I think it's so damn funny. But I do get it. Like if I step outside my own skis, I could totally understand why some people would not hold this high regard as I do. But I think it's such a unique film. Script, the performances, the perfect casting, the attention to detail with the matte paintings, and everything feels so tactile. This is all so special effects, CGI in your face, throwing up in your face. This is just a cupcake thrown up in your face, not a CG, eye-gasm every 2 seconds. This is just for that. Like if you're like an aspiring filmmaker and you want to see something that is something that people like actually had to work on, I think that Cabin Boy is there. Like come for the laugh, stay for the technical achievement.
That was very generous. It's not disdain. It's just kind of like, it's one of those movies I was like, that's funny. Ha, chuckle. I want that hour back.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we can't agree all the time, but I'm glad that I made Johnny do this. What else do you want me to make Johnny Mulligans watch in a future episode of the Cult of Films? Leave it in the comment section below. Like, nothing's off the table. Maybe we'll get him to watch Society or something really fucked up.
Is this like comments. One of those movies where I'd have to like contain myself in a small room somewhere with the blankets over my head and watch it quietly with my headphones on?
You might have to register something after watching Society. But
I gotta excuse me. I have to report to the state.
Yeah, you'll become a part of a very specific group. We'll just say that.
Like a CIA watch list. Fun.
Let's just I don't. This might just be a whole new spin-off series. It's just like force Mulligans to watch X. Like we'll just really creep out Mulligans next time. But yeah, if you like this, go ahead and leave a thumbs up downstairs. Share it around. If you want to hear this in podcast form, I am uploading them again on all of those platforms as well. Yeah, if you want to reach out to us, talk about films, you could do so on the official Twitter account for this show, and that's very simply at the Cult of Films, all lowercase. If you want to find me, I'm at Orzov Dunn. Johnny Mulligans, thank you so much for coming on and shitting on one of my favorite films of all time. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me on the Twitters at Johnny Mulligans. Pretty quick and easy.
Perfect. All right. Well, until next time, let's go get our pipes cleaned.